The Scriptures are clear. The distinct and eternal law of God was fulfilled, magnified, and made honorable by the death of Jesus Christ, in satisfaction of his Father's law. And that same law is satisfied and forever established within us through our faith in the payment made for us by Jesus Christ. For there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ, who was ordained by God to carry the good news of redemption to the world outside of the Hebrew nation, confirmed throughout his writings that the ceremonial laws of Moses, which he referred to as carnal ordinances and shadows, had been abolished with the death of Jesus Christ on the cross. While the Apostle Paul makes clear that the ceremonial laws of types and shadows had been abolished at the cross of Christ, he also confirms throughout his writings that the distinct and eternal law of God was established at the cross of Christ through our faith in that atonement. So Paul, in his writings, speaks clearly of these two separate and distinct laws of the Bible. He speaks of one being abolished and another being established. But how can we be certain that the Apostle Paul was speaking of the eternal law of God contained in the Ten Commandments when he spoke of the one law being established through our faith? According to Paul, the law which is established through our faith in Jesus Christ is the law that reveals man's sin. Which of these two laws reveals man's sin? Although the answer is obvious, let us rely on Paul's answer within the same letter. Paul quotes directly from the royal law of God, referencing and reciting the 10th commandment regarding covetousness, when describing the law that reveals man's sin. The Apostle Paul speaks clearly, and the Scriptures state plainly, that it is by the condemnation and uncompromising penalty of this perfect and eternal law that every person will one day be judged. And it is from the condemnation and uncompromising penalty of this perfect and eternal law that Jesus Christ has made it possible for you and me to be saved from its penalty of death by believing and trusting in his sacrifice. Hence it is the eternal law of God, represented by the 10 Commandments, that is established by grace through our faith in Jesus Christ. The law of types and shadows consisted of ceremonial rites which were designed by God to typify and point forward to the cross of Christ. These ceremonial rites consisted of monthly and annual feasts and festivals, which coincided with monthly and annual ceremonial Sabbaths, of which animal sacrifices and meat and drink offerings formed a necessary part. In the Scriptures, God refers to these ceremonial or shadowy Sabbaths as your Sabbaths and her Sabbaths, while referring to the Sabbath of the fourth commandment as my Sabbath, my holy day, and the Sabbath of the Lord. While the shadowy Sabbaths of the ceremonial law pointed forward to the cross, the Sabbath of God points backward to the creation of the world as an everlasting memorial to the one true God, by whom the heavens and the earth and the sea and the fountains of waters were created. And it was to serve as an eternal representation of the only one who is worthy of all honor, glory, praise, and worship. That is, the one who created all things, including the Sabbath day, the one who is called Lord of the Sabbath, the one who is the living, breathing Word of God, the one who is called Jesus.